So, building on top of part 1 for the FPS tutorial, which if you haven't seen you probably want to see first, this is all about grenades. Grenades build on top of the damage script that we have on our zombies, which are over here. So if I select this zombie, you can see it has an enemy health script, and that enemy health script allows it to take damage and to play its animator when it receives it's down to 0 HP. I've also got a shoot script which checks for shooting the target and playing an audio sound to make it go bang, and also for getting it to play an animation when you pull the trigger. What I want to look at now is throw grenade. So if you've seen the previous video, this builds on top of that. Rather than going through it bit by bit, what I've got here is the code. I'm going to show you that it works, and then I'll explain how it works in some detail. So what we've got to start off with is each grenade needs to know how long it waits before, after you drop it, that it should explode. I've got a variable here for the particle effect, that when it does explode what that should look like, a variable for the blast radius, and then a variable for how much force should be passed into any physics objects within range to make them blow out of the way, because that makes grenades look and feel pretty good. I should probably also add a public a public audio clip. No, I'm not going to add an audio clip. I'll come back to that later. So what I've got here is when the grenade is released, it starts a countdown, so it starts a coroutine, and when that so that goes and plays the go coroutine, which is this bit up here, I enumerator boom. So yield return new wait 4 seconds waits for the period of your wait time, which by default we set up to be 1 second, so it'll wait for 1 second, followed by instantiating the explosion effect, so the particle effect. It will then destroy the grenade. What it will then do is collect information on everything that is nearby. So every collider that is nearby. Now my zombies currently have a collider, one on their head, one on their main body, but you could have many colliders spread around your enemy based on the same techniques. So here I've got one collider which is following the head around and one which is just following the whole body, but you may have many such colliders dotted around depending on what it is your enemy is doing. So currently it says get every collider within a sphere, and based on where the grenade was when it exploded, so transformed opposition, because remember this script lives on the grenade, and then blast radius, which is obviously the radius of the grenade's area of effect. It gets all of that information and then stores that in an array, so a list of colliders. This chunk of code then cycles through every single collider that was detected, so the head, the body, if there are multiple different objects nearby, it will cycle through all of those and store them in this nearby object variable. So it goes through every nearby object, keep in mind that means part of object as well if there are multiple colliders, and checks if that nearby object had a rigid body, so it wasn't null, there was a rigid body, add an explosion force to make it move out of the way, blast away, give that nice blast effect, based on explosion force, based on where the grenade was, and then based on how far away the blast radius is, so affect things within the range of the blast. Then it also does a check to see, well, if that nearby object had an enemy health script, so if that enemy health was not null, we should also take damage. Now this is where our code is going to start to become a little bit flaky, because for every part of the body that we are hitting, we're doing the exact same amount of damage as one bullet hit. Okay, but a bullet hit might do more damage than a grenade, or if we've got lots of body parts, maybe we want to do little amounts of damage, but the amount of body parts that we've caught in the explosion should do more damage. So we're going to show that this works, and then we are going to talk about how we can expand on this to make it better code. So we've got our one zombie selected, there's another zombie here, and there's another little box which I'm just going to give a very low mass to, probably 0.2 kilos. It's got a rigid body on it, so we expect it to be affected by the force of the grenade. I've got a series of grenades over here. I'm going to make this grenade just picking on this one, particularly forceful. So I'm going to give it explosion force of 25, just to show that this one on the end is a little bit more powerful than the rest. Let's see what we get when we try this out. So we should still be able to see that if I select one of these grenades, apologies for the lag guys, my PC is doing something else in the background. So I'm going to pick, whoops, I've dropped that grenade, and that's knocked all the grenades over. At least it shows that it works. Never drop grenades, it's bad for your life. So, going to put the grenade over here. We expect to see some movement out of that box, which is not what we saw. But we should see that each of these characters are taking some sort of damage. Again, apologies for the lag, it's pretty bad on my side. So we can see that explosion effect. It's not the best explosion effect. You'll also see that it's quite difficult for me to throw this grenade. I throw it and it doesn't go very far. Again, that may have been very difficult to see given the nature of the lag. If I select this grenade, which I think is the one that's got quite a bit of range on it, and place it over by these guys. Didn't really see much force there. What frame rates am I getting? 7. Dear God. I'm uploading a video at the same time. This was not a good move. But here we are, we're committed now. We just need to see that after a certain number of explosions, we expect these zombies to peg it. I think one more should probably do it. No, a couple more. There we go. So we could see that they were all taking damage, and we can see that the box has actually moved. I just don't think the strength is particularly powerful on the explosion. So let's grab this, put it right next to the box. Did it force it to move? Yes, it did move, it's just got a very, very low force. So we can obviously improve that. So we can see that works. How we can improve on this script? Well, this script itself is pretty alright, but it probably should make a bang noise. So, same trick we did on the gun. Throw grenade, or the grenade object. Again, keep in mind I've got lots of copy-pasted grenades here, but because they're prefabs, if I affect one, I can override its properties so it affects all of them. I am just going to delete all of the other grenades, just so we've got one, maybe two to play with. There you go. This is the chosen grenade here. This chosen grenade, can I override? Can revert, so it just needs to tell this grenade it is a new prefab. Make it as original. That makes it happy. So now I can override. So this, these grenades we're going to make sure has a new component of type audio source, exactly as we did previously for our gun. Our audio source, we're going to make a clip. I've got a grenade explosion already queued up. Is it any good? Sounds more like a gun, but we'll go for it. We don't want it to play on awake, and we do want our line of code that when it explodes, just like we did previously, we're going to get the component attached to this game object, which is of type audio source, and tell it to play, just like we've done before. So, we've got a script here. So if I go through this one more time, a series of variables for how long we need to wait, an explosion effect, the explosion radius, and the explosion force. Remember, all of these presets get overwritten in the inspector. So if I tell the explosion force here to become a force of 50, it goes bold to say that that's changed from its default, but no matter what I write here, the stuff that's in Unity will override it. We've got the grenade release, we start a coroutine. The way this is working as well, so this grenade release method happens when the selected is exited on the XR grab interactable, meaning when I let go of it for the first time, it will tell the grenade to call the throw grenade script, and it will call the grenade release method. Once the grenade release method is called, it will call this coroutine, wait for however long the wait time is, and do all those bits we just described. So I'm going to make a series of, I'm going to make sure that that is the default, make a bunch of copies. But what I think is a problem at the minute is I think my grenades should do more damage. I don't like having to throw 10 grenades to kill one zombie. I don't think that's very good. So to improve this, well, I can't change the damage of a grenade because there's no way that interacts with the enemy health. What I can, however, do is tell the enemy health when it takes damage to store that information and to use it. So currently, when we take damage, every time we do 10 points of HP. I think it would be better if we had a variable that gets passed in, which is the amount of damage we should now do. So that was a very subtle change, but a very important one. What we've put in the brackets there is a floating point variable called damage, and now, rather than doing 10 points every time the grenade goes off, or any time we get shot, we do however much damage the weapon wants to do. And suddenly we can be very powerful with this. So if I go back to my shoot script, it will now be broken, because take damage is expecting something in the brackets. So I can still type do 10 points of damage, but I can make this gun do 50 points of damage, or 30 points of damage, or even better, at the top of the script, have a publicly accessible floating point variable called damage. And this gun, because this will be unique to every gun with this script on it, this gun might do 25 points of damage. So now, instead of doing a hard-coded number, I do the damage value of the gun, which I can now do exactly the same thing for the grenade. I can have a value up here, public float damage, and the amount of damage I do for a grenade is probably very strong. Let's say I'll pick 30 on this one. Something different to show that this is working. Keep in mind though, this will still be broken because it doesn't know how much damage we should be passing into our enemy health script. So I want to do the amount of damage to every nearby object depending on the damage of the grenade. So if I go back here now and find my grenade script, it should now have the default amount of damage, in this case 30, but I can change each one. So this grenade is going to do 15 points of damage because it's old and knackered. This grenade is going to do 50 points of damage. This grenade is going to have an explosion force of some lunatic value. And let's go and watch the particles fly, as it were. Hopefully I'll get slightly better frame rates now. We should also get a slightly pathetic puff noise as it explodes. So this grenade is going to go over here, and I'm going to drop it. That obviously had a much more impactful force. I didn't hear an explosion sound effect. That moved it quite a lot more forcefully. You can see that the explosion force has knocked all of these grenades quite far away, and because they've just got rolling colliders, it's very difficult to now find them. So, something's gone wrong there. Let's find out what. Firstly, why is my frame rate still so chronic? Unhappy graphics card. I wonder why. Did I get an error? No, it was just dire. So, you have a audio source which should play the grenade clip, which sounds pretty crap, but should work. The spatial blend should be 3D, so I should have fixed that. And now let's tell all grenades that they behave like that. I also want max distance to be lower. And let's override all of that. And let's add a couple more grenades in. This grenade, the one on the far left, is going to do 100 points of damage. So we expect this grenade on the left to kill them both outright. If it doesn't, something's gone wrong. Grenade on the left, over here, drop it down. Does it kill both of them? Yes, it does. And I can see that the explosion force was still pretty good. And off they roll because they've got capsule colliders. One last thing I wanted to show you about grenades is, as a throwable item, you probably want them to throw with some force. So I'm having to walk over and drop them. Not usually how a grenade works. You could stand and physically throw it, but you don't always have the space for that. So for each item that you have on the XR Grab Interactable, you have a value here for throw velocity scale, which by default is 1.5. So it takes how far your hand is moving and scales that velocity by an extra 50%. If you wanted all of your grenades, I'm going to select all of the grenades currently in my scene. Where's the other one? I'm sure there's more than two. There's the other one. So I'm going to tell all of my grenades in my scene to have a throw velocity scale of 3. So take how hard I throw it and times it by 3. Let's see what that does. So, as I walk over to this grenade, I'm going to throw it quite gently. The lag is making this impossible to demo. I'm not sure why the lag is such an issue. I really didn't throw very far. I need to get to the bottom of this lag issue, because this is just untenable. Apologies for this, guys. For testing, what lights have I got that I can turn off? My computer could just be tired, it's that time of night. Let's see if that improves anything. Not visibly. One last throw, see if it works.